welcome to the Back Porch. My name is Megg Farrell.
And I'm Ricky Alexander.
And today we're here with one of my favorite singers and good friend, Tamar Korn. When you got here and when you moved and you transitioned into playing jazz, and performing jazz, what was that like, and how did that transition happen? And
Yeah, so I went to a house party that Jake Sanders was playing guitar. He was playing music in the living room and I felt comfortable enough. I didn't know any early jazz, and he wasn't even playing much jazz, but he was playing some blues. I remember calling Stormy Weather and we figured it out and played it. And then he at that time was doing roadie work for Vince Giordano, and it took a while to get to that point, but when I started busking with them and then they were getting gigs and then I would get gigs with them and we had a little band. But it was Michael Magro, the clarinet player, coming back to town and playing with Jake again that introduced me to a lot of early New Orleans jazz. And I kind of lit up. It was like hearing animals having a party in a forest, and it was like this really beautiful, wild, but classical.
So much you heard that within the music, but in this kind of like bright and exciting way.
Yeah, my first musical experiences of instrumental music was my dad playing violin and playing Bach. And so Bach was counterpoint, and your hands are responding, calling and responding to each other. And that counterpoint was, I think, what lit me up most about Jelly Roll stuff.
That makes sense, yeah.
And what excited me as a singer was because the music being contrapuntal and having all the layers lent itself to me being able to be an instrument, which I liked to play with instrument sounds before, but I didn't have a context. I always think of, like, instead of just being the female, because it can feel there's like sometimes dynamics that were there around like femaleness, but also singerness as opposed to instrumentalists, and there could be pejorative power dynamics. And the other thing about scatting or instrumental sound making is it gave me a big break from being verbal. And growing up, a big part of my dad and mom kind of dynamic, there was a lot of verbal criticism. I mean when you say something and someone imagines someone like rewording everything you say. And so both my relationship with my dad eased and you got to see that change. But then music came in and did the same thing for my brain, where I got to, if that makes sense,
like
where
your relationship to word.
Yeah, my
eased
relationship to words
language
got to be relieved by sound making.
There's a great purity in instrumental music, It totally leaves all of that behind.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's a purity. It's like it's an animal. Our animal selves get to come out, and then when you come back to language, it means more.
Yeah.
Say, have you ever heard the saxophone let out an awful moan, let out an awful groan? It makes you feel real nervous, yet it's great. It's a saxophone a-calling to his mate, that sweet coquette, the clarinet. Now listen, everybody, and the birth of jazz you'll hear. And where there is a little jazz, you'll always find me near. For I'm the jazz vampire. Take a foot, take a foot, take a foot with me and dance, dance, dance. Dancing is my specialty. Wise men keep out of my way. They know I lead them astray. They fall the can't resist the jazz vampire. Take a tip, take a tip, take a tip from me, for I am all that evil music has. I went to the river, stood on the bank, shook my shoulders, and the boats all sang. For I'm the meanest kind of jazz vampire. I'm the wicked vampire of the jazz. I wake up in the morning and I make the coffee whole. Ham and eggs turn over, put the crawlers in the hole. I get onto the trolley car, the car begins to sway. I get upon a half a dozen laps to start the day. I walk into the office, I meet the starter there. 6 or 7 elevators go up in the air. I sit down to my Remington and syncopate the keys. The fellow by the water stand gets water on his knees. The boss dictates a letter. Dear sir, I'd like to state, the man who gets the letter has to stop and hesitate. And when the day is over and the sun sets in the west, say I'm the only little bird who doesn't go to rest, 'cause I'm a jazz vampire. Take a foot, take a foot, take a foot, take a foot with me and dance. Dancing is my specialty. Watch people get out of my way. They know I leave them astray. They fall the minute I sway. I insist you can't resist the jazz vampire. Take a tip, take a tip, take a tip, take a tip from me, for I am all that evil music has. You know what? I went to the ocean, no one around, shook my shoulders and the sun went down. For I'm the meanest kind of jazz vampire. I'm the wicked vampire of the jazz.
It sounds like the way that you do the violin, becoming the instrument, and also the way that you choose to recite your father's poetry, or maybe you have some operatic kind of influence there. It sounds like your parents were a big influence on your music. And can you talk about like why you make those decisions?
Sure. My parents and decision making. My dad was a very meticulous musician and linguist and mathematician, and I found the poetry of his that he wrote when he was around 20 years old and running the poetry journal at McGill and studying math and physics at the same time. He was a very interesting person, but I found all that poetry in his stuff after he died. I found it, and that was about 13 years ago now, in 2010. People would ask me what my main vocal influences were, who I listened to, and I never knew what to say because I didn't grow up listening to early jazz or a lot of recorded music at all, but I did all of theater. And then it dawned on me, it was my dad's violin and his violin playing. He was a high school math teacher, but would like come home and play. And he was also like volunteering at the Santa Monica Symphony and different places, because he was Juilliard trained, so he was like really good, but he dropped out of Juilliard and then did other things, and it had a really interesting breadth of study. My mom has a really different way about her, and she's just very supportive and very playful, and she always loved music and gave me a lot of confidence as like in a spiritual way. She like used to tell me I was a wise child. I feel like that's a really cool compliment for a kid to have. You know what I mean?
Look down that lonesome road before you travel on. Look up and greet your maker before Gabriel blows his horn. of immortality. There is in me the need to sing, to sing, to live, breathe, to sculpture in the sky, to mold the very stars, to tell the living and the dead the joy of breath and fire. I want to love these ageless moments, to be jubilant for just 1 second, to see the vision of my ecstasy, the fruits of all my hidden dreams begin to ripen and gather in as golden sheaves. Harvest time, breathe my soul, play on crimson strings this lyre, which for ages was untuned. Oh, sing, shine, scream, the beauty of this ever-growing shadow which is striding far behind me. For the road, is but a moment, and the sky is growing dimmer, richer, full of radiant lights which guide the stranger in its mystery.